So there is no doubt about it that 2025 is going to be a very difficult and challenging year for the Walt Disney Company, for those like Bob Iger, the executives, the board of directors, not just because of Snow White 2025, but because of other projects as well. Of course, Snow White being the main one for the first quarter of that year, between the marketing campaign and the release of the movie eventually in late March of that year. But things are already beginning to worsen over time behind closed doors between both actresses Gal Gadot and Rahcel Zegler, the ongoing back and forth grudge between the two that's only wreaking havoc over at the Walt Disney Company. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, one thing about the Snow White live-action remake, and we've been talking about this for a while, is that there's a lot of funds invested in this movie. I mean, when I say a lot, I say a lot. We are already well over $300 million invested in this movie and rising, due to reshoots on the horizon that are really being worked on right now and are being organized by Bob Iger. And I think it's going to be pretty much the final nail in the coffin when it comes to the production. The more you put into this movie, the worse it gets. Now, one thing about this has a lot to do with Gal Gadot going against Rahcel Zegler and exactly what she recently did, that I think was not only a very smart move on her part, but it does negatively impact Rahcel Zegler, and it's creating a even more severe grudge between the two actresses. Let's get into it, shall we? Now, one thing about this movie is that we know that it not only has a lot of issues with the creatives on board and the funds that are actually being invested into it, but a lot of it has to do with the test screening failures. We talked about this. There were already 5 test screenings that failed miserably. However, given that Gal Gadot is already involved in serious drama with the Disney heads after all the issues with Snow White 25, and Rahcel Zegler specifically, one monumental development going on right now has more to do with Gal Gadot and what she recently did against Zegler during the Snow White drama as the grudge between these two actresses continue. Now, one shocking turn of events in this development now is that Zegler recently just lost millions of dollars that were going to be paid to her directly for various interviews that have now been officially canceled. Now, Zegler reportedly was going to be paid an estimated, get this, $3 million altogether for major interviews that were going to be done and organized by the Walt Disney Company. However, it turns out the main reason why many of those interviews were canceled had to do with Gal purposely backing out of those 2-on-1 interview formats that were going to be done on all ABC programs and other studios as well, along with others like Vanity Fair, IMDb, etc., and many others on video, and they were going to be very lengthy interviews, mind you. Now, one of which even included a Joy Behar interview with Rahcel and Gal that has now been shelved because of Gal backing out of all of them, forcing Disney to cancel, hence resulting in Rahcel losing millions of dollars that were going to be paid to her as part of the Snow White marketing campaign. Now, to make matters worse, even for Zegler, the reason why Gal backed out of those interviews is that Gal doesn't want to be seen with Zegler in the public eye as much, and even Gal lost out on millions of dollars worth of interviews. However, she reportedly did not care about that loss, while Rahcel is already having a meltdown over the situation, since many of the studios and programs that were going to interview Rahcel and Gal refused to participate unless it was the 2-on-1 interview format, now forcing Disney to back out. Now, this is already creating a battle that is beginning, of course, by Rahcel and her team against the Disney heads, claiming that this was concrete and built into her contract deal. It turns out the executives made it clear to Rahcel that those interviews would be done separately and detached from her actual contract of the Snow White 25 production, and it was a very complex deal to understand for Rahcel. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about this. Now, I think it was a very smart move by Gal to back out of those interviews. I think that what Gal is doing here is that she wants nothing to do with Rahcel. Visually speaking, she doesn't want to be seen by her side by side as much. And you know what? That has a lot to do with what's been going on social media, what's been going on behind the scenes between Rahcel and Gal Gadot, and it's not a very pretty, situation. In fact, it's a very ugly situation right now. for Bob Iger and the executives. I mean, it even got to a point where almost every meeting regarding the Disney live-action remakes have turned into emergency meetings, you know, about where they want to go with those projects, whether it's Sword in the Stone, Hercules, other upcoming remakes. It's not looking good at all. And we know that they are doubling down on their usage of DEI. They even have a new DEI supervisor coming on board over at Disney that's going to pay $200,000+ a year, which is insane. And that is living proof that they are not going to quiet down on the noise as Bob Iger initially had promised. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with Gal and Rahcel. Alright, let's dive into this further. Now, Gal also backed out of an exclusive interview that was going to be done on multiple radio stations with Rahcel Zegler that are also now no longer happening due to Gal backing out of those. And Rahcel is furious over her decision. All of this drama also sparked after Gal was asking Rahcel to rethink their strategy of promoting Snow White and to not post divisive material on X, and Rahcel refused to actually change or take down any posts. And this only made the situation worse as of late, which is another reason why Gal wanted to back out of the interviews. Altogether, Rahcel lost around $3.5 million, which is going to be her final payout from Disney after her Snow White production payout. So you have the production payout and you have the marketing campaign, and between everything, it was really going to be millions upon millions of dollars for this production alone. So she viewed this movie as a launching pad to kind of kickstart her career with Disney, and all the other projects are no longer happening. These interviews that were going to all be exclusive interviews between herself and Gal are all off the table, and Bob Iger and the executives really are in free-fall mode right now. They don't know what to do with the marketing of this movie. They don't know what to do with Rahcel and Gal, and I think what Gal did here, like I said before, very smart move on her part to distance herself from Rahcel Zegler, because I think that Gal is beginning to realize that she's not going to be dragged down, you know, by Rahcel with her career, and she's not going to fall into that scenario. Now, look, we know that at the same exact time, director Mark Webb and writer Greta Gerwig of Snow White, even they are having issues with Rahcel Zegler. That's how severe the situation is right now when it comes to Snow White 2025. Now, we know that there's a new trailer on the horizon. By this holiday season, they are eyeing a late November trailer for Snow White, the full-length trailer, because the last one was technically a teaser trailer. So that's going to be dropping in just a, short number of months from now. It's going to be interesting to see what the backlash is going to look like with that compared to the backlash of the teaser, because that was ratioed across all forms of social media. Fans, Disney fans, the general public, those that are really against Disney's overall agenda, they are voicing their opinion about what they have done to all of these major properties, to these characters, to, of course, just everything related to what Disney used to be decades ago. So I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this ongoing situation below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.